In this video, we're going to talk about rounding numbers. When you get an answer to a problem in your calculator, you're often going to find that you need to round it to a certain number of sig figs. So what we're going to talk about here is how do I round that answer in my calculator to a certain number of sig figs. Let's look first at the number 0.026834. Let's say you worked a problem on your calculator and this is what your calculator displayed as the answer. Now this answer, this number, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sig figs. Remember that the leading zeros are not significant. If, based on your problem, you only need 4 sig figs, you will need to round that answer to 4 sig figs. That means you simply stop writing 1, 2, 3, 4 after the 4th digit. So I would round this to 0.02683 and I would stop, and there would be my answer to 4 sig figs. If instead the calculator had generated the answer 0.026839, now if I need 4 sig figs for my answer, this is listed to 5, because the digit that I'm dropping off, the place right after I stop, is a 9, it actually affects the last digit I'm going to write, and I do what's called rounding up. So 0.02684 is what I would present as my answer to 4 sig figs. I do have to write these leading zeros because they're placeholders, but I don't count them as sig figs. So 0.02684 would be my answer, rounded to 4 sig figs. The general rule is if the number that you're dropping off is from 0 to 4, you simply drop it off. If the number that you're dropping off is 5 through 9, you do what's called rounding up. We will never round down. We'll never take the last digit and go down with it. We'll either leave the last digit exactly as is, or we will round the last digit up 1 based on the part that's dropping off. It gets a little trickier if I have a number like this. For example, if I have 124.6. That's what the answer to the numerical problem is in my calculator, and this has 4 sig figs. If I needed to round it to 3 sig figs based on the problem, again, here's where I stop writing. The 6 means that the 4 rounds up, and so my answer would be 125. And there it is to 3 sig figs based on what the problem needs. If my answer is 124.6 in my calculator and I only need 2 sig figs for my answer, here's where I will stop writing, but I cannot simply report my answer as 12. 124.6 does not round to 12. However, it does round to 120 with only 2 sig figs. I have to include the 0 placeholder there. And there are my 2 sig figs, the 1 and the 2. I cannot simply not write the 0 because that changes the numerical value. I have to write it as a placeholder. So my answer to 2 sig figs is 120. What you want to watch for, one common mistake that students make, if my calculator displays 124.6 as my answer, and I know I need to round to 2 sig figs because of the nature of the problem, do not round twice. In other words, don't say, well, that rounds to 125 to 3 sig figs, which rounds to 130 to 2 sig figs. That is not the answer. The answer to 2 sig figs is 120. The answer to 3 sig figs is 125, but the answer to 2 sig figs is 120. Don't round twice. Round once. Look at the number that's in your calculator. Round it immediately to the correct number of sig figs based on the problem.